to Voices of Boost, the podcast series where we discuss bright ideas and bold moves in the energy and utilities industry. My name is Michel Delvaux and I am your host today. My guest is Peter Loyen from Ferranti. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself and what your role at Ferranti actually is?
Yes, I'm Peter Loyen. I'm currently working at Ferranti as a security architect. It's a new role within Ferranti, and the main purpose is actually to bridge the gap a little bit between compliance, customer needs, and our own technology, the Dynamics M365 platform, and to see how everything can be made more secure actually for all involved parties. This is the main role that I have within Ferranti.
Yeah, and you've been working in security and compliance for a couple of years already, not
yes,
only at Ferranti, I think. So there's a big history in that topic for you.
Yes, I've been working now in cybersecurity, security about 15 years now already. I've had different roles on many different topics, industrial networks, company networks, cybersecurity, even some pen testing, so hacking people is also one part of cybersecurity. It makes it very interesting and very diverse. I recently started actually at Ferranti a few months ago, and it makes it a very challenging environment and a very interesting environment too to work with actually, and also to see how customers can be assisted in the whole new NIS2 legislation and everything else that they have. So it will be a very interesting challenge to have actually. And I think the utilities and energy market will be, let's say, at the forefront to comply to any new legislations that they will have. So it will be very interesting.
They obviously use a lot of data, also personal and customer data and such things. So it is actually a good attention point, I think, for the customers of Ferranti. Where do you see the biggest challenges actually, if you're talking about compliance for those type of companies?
Compliance will be mainly related to the whole security posture of the company, but they use, of course, the Dynamics 365 platform as a very important component of their whole system, actually, from source client data to invoicing and everything. So it's very important that that data is being secured and validated, and that there is actually no breach there. Last week we had a telecoms operator that had some issues with that. So that's already a good example how things can go wrong very fast. And I think the energy market will be, and utilities market will be, in the coming years, I would say they will be very, they will be, let's say, more vulnerable to attacks than anything else, because it will be very disrupting for the whole society of a company, of a region, a country, or anything else. So I think it will be very important to have this compliancy. NIS2 will be set always to national laws, so it will always differ a little bit because we work internationally. It will differ from each country how it will be implemented in a way, and that makes it sometimes not easy to do. But we'll have to see how everything will evolve on that part. They still have a couple of years to comply, so it will be fine.
Okay, and then you mentioned the Dynamics 365 platform, software platform built by Ferranti, which is built on top of Microsoft technology, I believe.
Yes, it's on Azure. It's on Microsoft technology. It's also on Dynamics 365. So actually on the compliance level of MECOMS 365, we can already rely on the Azure.
Yeah, the big support of Microsoft actually.
And they also provide a lot of security tools that we can implement, or the customer can implement, depending on which area it has to be done, because it's always a collaboration between the customer and Ferranti on the MECOMS 365 platform, because they have data that they will submit. We have data that we have to submit. It's automated data from external companies. That makes it a bit of a collaboration on how things can be made more secure. But the main part for us is actually that the MECOMS 365 platform is very robust to anything that can go wrong on intentionally or unintentionally. It can go wrong, so that we can actually make sure that that's is being covered by our platform.
Yeah, because you also called MECOMS 365 as being compliant or compliance by design.
Yes.
Is that like a design philosophy then, or what does it actually mean?
Well, compliancy by design actually means that the whole framework for being compliant, whether it's ISO 27001 or NIS2, that's being in those rules and regulations are being incorporated by as of the design phase of the whole platform in a way. It's a transition that everyone has to make. Also, MECOMS 365 and Ferranti has to work on that. But the roadmap is very positive on that part. We've done already quite some improvements. We also listen to our customers on what they really want and what they want to have. That's also a very important input that we can have actually from our customer base, what their worries are, where they think the focus needs to be on. And there are still a lot of things on the roadmap actually for 2026 during the course of the years that might improve certain things on security level and make the whole MECOMS 365 platform even more robust for anything that can happen from external.
Yeah, so you're not only counting on the big technology provider or partner Microsoft, but also adding your own features or design philosophy to make it even.
Yes, because Ferranti is developing the software on top of the whole big technology of Azure and Dynamics 365, and that software interacts with other parts of customer infrastructure, and that has to be as robust and secure as possible without compromising actually let's say an easy flow of working for the customer, because that's also the most important thing.
Well, and when talking about energy companies or suppliers, one of the big part of your customer base actually, they have a lot of customer data and customer details. So that also brings risks, I can imagine.
Yes, indeed.
And we also know the GDPR legislation. So how does actually the MECOMS platform tries to secure the customer data, or how does that actually work? How do you provide sufficient security for personal data in the MECOMS platform?
The personal data in the MECOMS platform, and there's also a part of, let's say, the FinOps part actually. That's also
finance and operations.
Finance operations actually. That's also one thing that actually has a lot of data, of course, from contract data, etc. That data is already being secured by encryption. and we call encryption is actually securing that the data cannot be read just like you're reading a text on a paper. Or on a screen. That's the most important thing. So that's being encrypted, and also when it's being sent out from one part to the other, it's also via secure connectivity, so that it cannot be, let's say, somebody cannot just eavesdrop on the communication itself. So that's very important. Of course, like I said, data is coming from different sources. How correct that data is something that we can only check by validation of what data we get, what information we are getting, and what we need to process that data. Anything else that is in that data is not always that relevant, and does not need to be sent out to the Mecoms 365 platform and affiliates to make sure that that's also not the case. So it's actually on need-to-know basis and trying to limit as much of the information that we need to have, actually.
Yeah.
One most important aspect is who has access to that data. And to secure that more, we are it's already quite secure, and we are improving that even more to make sure that actually we can have let's say more granular approach on who has access to which data and why does he need to have this data, and then also have a detailed logging on who had access to that data.
Yeah.
And that's for audit reasons very important.
Yeah, so simply put, actually, that people who are working for an energy company can only use data they need for their job, but they can't just scroll around in all the data that's available.
That's just something that we really would like to limit as much as we can. And we can only provide this via the platform. Again, it's up to the customer to say who has access to that data, because it's on their environments and they control also the users in a way.
Yeah.
And we can only limit that, or at least provide detailed logging on who has done what. So if something goes wrong, that they have enough information, the customer has enough information to pinpoint what went wrong by whom. It can be intentional, can be unintentional, you never know.
Yeah.
That's always something that you have to keep in mind of.
Indeed. A lot of companies often see regulations and new legislations and things like that as a barrier for innovation or efficient working. Do you agree to that, or do you see it as an opportunity?
It's a very thin line between regulation and innovation. You can use regulation to innovate, to make things more robust, more secure. That's also a part of innovation. It can also be that regulation is blocking innovation to remain competitive, which is always a bit of a trade-off to do. I think there's always an opportunity with regulation to actually innovate things. And I think with the Mecoms 365 platform, there's still a lot of innovation that can be provided to customers to actually comply to regulations, but also still via the regulation, because it's more secure in a way, that it also again leaves room in let's say the box is more secured, and within the box you can play more. That's actually an analogy that I like to use. We make the box more solid, the playground is still there, and you can play around. While if the box is a little bit wobbly and you start playing around, something might break. That's something that we would like to avoid. And in that respect, you can really have innovation, even when there's regulation that says, okay, these are your limits. Like I said, if the it's too restrictive, then of course it's not working. But yeah, legislation is not written in stone. Things change also when they really see that the competition is coming from elsewhere in the world, that they might say, okay, maybe we should do this. But I think like GDPR, etc., is something that we need to cherish in a way.
Indeed. Now, GDPR is all about personal data of customers, but of course there's also something like new technologies.
Yes.
There's the new EU AI Act coming up about ethical and responsible use of AI.
Mm-hmm.
How does Ferranti go about that? Do you investigate how you should use those type of technologies, or how not to use them, or what is the philosophy behind that?
I think within the whole energy market, AI can be used, of course, and also even on the Dynamics 365, there are possibilities and features to use for AI, which is actually quite good in a way, but you always have to make sure which data is being used. The main thing that we all know is like ChatGPT, the large language models. It's also being used for, let's say, interactive customer service, actually. So you have like those chatbots in a way. They also use that. So you ask a question, you get really more than just like the old days, a stupid answer. You really get information. So I think there is a possibility, yes, for data to be analyzed via AI, but it must be strictly regulated in a way which data is being used. So let's say we have information about the system and the performance, and we want to have, let's say, a report generated out of that. AI can do that for us in an automated way, which makes it easier for us to live with. Personal identifiable information is from my part actually a no-go, because it's anything that's actually being done via AI is also being logged via system on AI. And those logs always contain snippets of the conversation, links to documents, etc. And it's actually very important that it's really being contained to which information we wanted to have used to learn and to interact with customers or with employees. So that's really important, actually. And I think the EU AI Act stipulates actually also that the main thing is actually that legislation and the let's say the foundation of the EU on personal information and privacy and freedom cannot be jeopardized by AI. That's the main thing. So as long as we are talking about technological data, etc., it's very easy to use. And also, how accessible is that AI?
So it's more like the infrastructure monitoring, such things where you see most or the quickest opportunities for AI for now.
Yeah, and also on the Mecoms platform, I see also some benefits coming up on that part, mainly to speed up, let's say, analysis, for instance, to have already, let's say, a first line analysis being done. And then, of course, people can still look at that. If they are not satisfied with that analysis, they can dig deeper themselves still. That's one of the things I think is very important to have. It will make the workflows more efficient for people, the processes more efficient. So there are benefits about it, but we have to be careful on how we are using it actually, and for which information we're using it. So it needs to be really limited also to which data.
Yeah, that sounds crucial indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and then finally, looking a bit ahead, what new compliance and security challenges do you see emerging over the, let's say, 3 to 5 years? And how is a company like Ferranti, which builds software, actually using that or trying to anticipate on that?
I think on security as a whole, especially on our customer base, like I already mentioned, they will be much more a target in the future than they might have been in the past. It all depends on lots of things. It can be geopolitical, it can be whatever it can be. It can be just like regular hackers that are trying to do something, regular quote, do that actually, and attack companies, because it's very disruptive on a public level and a society and on companies, factories that are relying on that kind of. There has been in the past already some things in the US about that for water companies that have been hacked. So actually, lots of things are actually very important on that part. Not everything can be done via the Mecoms platform, of course. We have the operational part, the OT part from an energy company. We are not involved in that part. But on the Mecoms platform itself, I think it's very important that anything that can be very disruptive is actually data leakage, making sure that data is being safe, and that the platform we use, that we provide, is actually very crucial to those companies, because it's an end-to-end ERP and system that they can use. So it's very important that actually stays safe, and that we also have the right tools to make sure that the system cannot be brought down, because that will be very disruptive even for those companies. And that's very important for the moment. I think in the next 2 to 3 years we'll definitely see more of that coming into play, that people trying to get into that data, because the energy market is a very competitive market. It's also a market that can be very disruptive, and every energy company or utility company is interconnected to each other. So anything can trickle down further down.
Yeah,
and that's very important also.
Yeah, we've seen some examples in abroad, unfortunately.
Yes.
If you could give one piece of advice, Peter, to listeners or viewers who are actually a bit worried about security of data and software platforms and things like that, what piece of advice would that be?
One thing is most important: do not panic. It's not that everything will go wrong in just like a blink of an eye, but be vigilant and make sure that you do a proper risk assessment of every part of the whole system that we have, which is for me the most important thing. Find out the gaps and do that regularly, rather via an external company or internally. Make sure that you remain vigilant of things that can go wrong actually. Many companies have so much information available, but they cannot digest it. Too much information can never be digested. So pinpoint on things and make sure that you have that information and work with that information. And perhaps even share that information.
Share that information? How do you mean?
If you, let's say, you use a system and you have found that there's some weakness in there that might cause an issue, you can rather wait that that's being publicly announced via the whole systems that we have, the database, the public database that's being mentioned, Or you can use this to actually, in a way, informally, because mention it to other people in the security area of the same market, so that they are also aware of that.
Yeah, so sharing knowledge actually.
Yes.
So if you investigate something and have results, share what you've found and seen in your own situation, so other can learn from that.
Yes.
That's actually
even Ferranti and with the Micom's platform being used by many companies, I think we are actually at the ideal position to do that actually, and I've already done that also. Just a few weeks ago there was something that had to be mentioned, and I've mentioned it to the relevant people within Ferranti, and they contacted their customer base to say, hey, we were aware of this part, which is quite critical and was actually bleeding edge. It was just announced publicly that day, so that they are also aware, because bigger companies might already learn from it, smaller companies might not.
No.
But they need to be aware, because they are also responsible for their own infrastructure. And I think that's one part that we still have to be vigilant about also from our point of view.
Yeah, but I can imagine if you collaborate in that way with your customers, that they do feel like you're a trustworthy and knowledgeable party, because you're informing them immediately actually about findings.
Yes, and that I think is very important. It builds a mutual trust, and I think that's very important to have in general with the customer base on security level, because everyone can encounter anything, rather than to have complaints or being too late. Share the knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's also one of my goals, to get that information through our customer base, and to have that some sort of relationship with, that we are able to share information, because security, you cannot do it alone.
True. That's a nice note to close with. Security, you can't do it on your own.
Yep.
So I would like to thank you, Peter, for this interesting conversation. And of course, also our listeners and viewers. If you found this an interesting podcast, then I hope to see you in one of our next episodes. Bye.